Hi. We've got you on speakerphone,
Okay.
and if you're ready, we're about ready to call the meeting to order.
Okay, I'm ready.
All right, good. We're adjusting microphones, just 1 second, and then I'll proceed. Thank you, Janine. I hereby call to order the meeting of the Nantucket Memorial Airport Commission for October 14th, 2014. The meeting is being recorded, and Ms. Planzer is participating by telephone due to geographical distance. As a reminder to the commission, in that event, all votes have to be roll call votes. Are there any comments on the agenda? Hearing none, it is adopted. May I have any comments and/or a motion to approve the minutes of August 12th, 2014?
I'll make a motion to approve the August 12th minutes, please.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Any comments? How do you vote, Mrs. Topham?
Aye.
Mr. Buscarin? Aye. Ms. Planzer?
Aye.
Mr. Gasparo?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. The minutes of September 9th, 2014. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make that motion.
Second?
Are there any comments?
No.
Suggestions? All right. Mrs. Topham, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Buscarin?
Aye.
Ms. Planzer?
Aye.
Mr. Gasparo?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. I think without objection, I will ask for a motion to ratify both the warrants of 9/24 and September 24th and October 8th as together.
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Discussion? Ms. Topham, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Buscarin?
Aye.
Ms. Planzer?
Aye.
Mr. Gasparo?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. We have a few pending leases. Mr. Rafter?
The first is a lease with Wiggins, and it includes a $1,500 business fee plus landing and freight fees. It's their standard agreement, their annual lease. The Delta one is still pending. We're awaiting some changes from our legal counsel, who's reviewing that. Jacobs Engineering contract for $5,232 is to develop the scope of work for the associated equipment that is needed for the fire truck. As you may recall, the FAA basically changed the way they allow you to bid that. It has to be a bare bones fire truck, and then the other equipment is separate. And the last is for vegetation control service for brush cutting in lieu of a controlled burn in the amount of $22,860. We received 5 bids, and that was the low bidder. And again, that was based on changing from a controlled burn to cutting the brush because the controlled burn was not working as anticipated.
Are there any questions or comments?
No, they're now working with the National Heritage, I think I read, that they were watching, they're watching the plants, whatever it is, the National Heritage, isn't it?
Yeah,
Foundation?
it's all part of the overall control of the vegetation and wildlife.
Mr. Gasparo?
I'd make a motion to approve the lease with Wiggins and the contract with Jacobs and the contract with Vegetation Control Servicing.
I'll second that motion.
Any further discussion? Ms. Topham, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Buscarin?
Aye.
Ms. Planzer?
Aye.
Mr. Gasparo?
Aye.
The chair votes aye. Thank you. Moving on to, I forgot to ask for public comment. There's no public here. So I guess I did.
Not even Bobby.
Not even Bobby, so I guess we didn't miss much.
We do miss Bobby.
We do miss Bobby, but other than that, all right, pending matters. Memorandum of understanding between the Board of Selectmen, the town manager, and the Nantucket Airport Commission on procurement. Mr. Rafter?
Before we get into this, I'd like to first congratulate Janine on her certification. She is certified as an associate MC PPO from the state. Don't ask me what the acronym stands for, but it's basically a procurement officer, so.
Oh, good.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. Thank you for doing that.
And in addition, you have in your packet what I'd like to ask for approval on, the memorandum of understanding with the town, Board of Selectmen and the town manager for procurement. We've sent it down to them for their review. We have not heard any comment officially, but we're hearing back that not only are they very happy with it, but they gave, again, great compliments to Janine for having everything in order and doing things properly with regard to procurement. It's a fairly straightforward, basic agreement. It references 2 documents that the town has created that we worked with them on. It's their policies and guidelines by department. So we also included the old one so you can see what the old one was like in there. But I would like to ask for the approval from the commission, and then once it's approved, we'll send it down with your approval and ask for the Board of
It
Selectmen.
just occurred to me, Mr. Rafter, should this have a provision saying it supersedes the prior one?
I
It does.
think it does
Does
up
it?
front. Janine is the one who caught that, too.
Oh, hereby replace it.
Replaces
Yeah,
a
okay. Yeah,
memorandum
I've got
of
it. I'm
September
sorry.
21st.
I went right by that. Okay, sorry, I withdraw the comment.
I missed it, too, so. So I know it's been a long time coming, but we have it now.
Well, we survived the other one.
So I will, I'll leave the other for later.
Are there any questions or comments on this document?
Looks good to me.
Looks good.
I will entertain a motion to approve it and authorize signing it when the town indicates its approval. Actually, we all have to sign it.
Should we all sign it and
Yeah.
send it to them signed?
Yeah, I think,
have a blank copy for that.
okay.
I'll make a motion to endorse the memorandum of understanding between the selectman and town manager and the commission.
Is there a second?
I'll second that motion.
Is there further discussion?
No.
How do you vote, Ms. Topham?
Aye.
Mr. Biscarin?
Aye.
Ms. Flanzer?
Aye.
Mr. Gasparo?
Aye.
The chair votes aye. Well done.
Thank you.
Took a while, but we got there.
Yeah.
Good.
All right.
Next, if you don't mind, Dan, the formerly used defense site
Yes.
update. Noah, myself, and Dave met with the Army Corps, the DEP, and several of their subcontractors who came out to view the site over where the, not just the FUDs, but the MRS site, actually, and went through.
I can't hear you very well, Tom.
Okay, well,
Maybe you can move down a little.
Yeah, we can all.
We met with the Army Corps, the
Thank you.
DEP, and many of their subcontractors, and they explained to us what their needs were in the site, and it may entail some movement of some of our tenants, which I'll be working with them closely on.
I'm sorry?
We're working to develop a plan internally to be able to give the Army Corps what they need to proceed with their investigation. One of the comments that was made in the meeting is that this work may end up being remediation through investigation, meaning because of the thoroughness of their investigation that they have to do, they may have to be doing some level of remediation as they move on, depending upon how much they find or what. The majority of it could be done as they're doing their investigation. However, it's going to take quite a bit of time, and they need most of the area clear. So I'm going to be working with the affected tenants and developing a plan for what's needed to address their concerns. So that's the update on the FUD site.
All right, any questions? Thank you. Moving on to the non-grant-related document signature policy revision.
This, and I'm going to ask Janine to correct me when I'm wrong here, but the memorandum of understanding that you just approved with the town added a requirement to have 3 commissioners sign on any of the contracts. The finance director asked for that, and rightfully so, I think, because as he put it, he said you could have a 3-2 vote against something and 2 commissioners sign it, and it could still slip through the cracks. So this way, they're asking for 3 signatures on the contract things. This is non-grant related document signature policy revision. So this is not included in that.
So it changes basically changes our policy from 2 signatures to 3.
Yes. So it just updates that to coincide with our procurement agreement.
Are there any questions? Is there a motion to approve the new non-grant related document signing policy?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second it?
Further discussion? Ms. Topham, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Buscarin?
Aye.
Ms. Planzer?
Aye.
Mr. Gasparo?
Aye.
The chair votes aye. All right, moving on to the quarterly budget actual report,
The quarterly financial report I'll be presenting to the Board of Selectmen next week is in your packet, and as you can see, the revenue is up by $533,000 over this period last year. The expenses are about $91,000 below. Debt service is slightly below. So the bottom line is we're doing better than last year, and I don't want to get too excited here, but I can tell you I think that a majority of the revenue increase is due to Jamie and Deb Crook's hard work on getting some of these receivables in. They were late from last year, and they got into the first quarter of this year. So it's good news, but I just don't, I can't use that as a gauge. I got to keep that in mind. So, but I do give Jamie a lot of credit. She's done a tremendous job on getting the what we're owed and getting the money into us. So, and even our accountant said they've done a tremendous job. So, and along those lines, there was a audit committee meeting last week. Currently, the current audit is underway. They were in the office last week and working with Jamie. And at the audit committee meeting, I had to write it down because the word that the auditor used was that the airport did a spectacular job in correcting the deficiencies and moving forward on some of these things. So, again, Jamie and her folks are doing a tremendous job, and we're starting to see some great results from that. So it looks like good news, but I'm still cautiously optimistic here. I want to manage everybody's expectations. We want to make sure we keep chugging along this way. So.
Are there any questions on the specifics of the report?
I have one.
Yes, sir.
I just noticed a line item I don't think I've seen, or I noticed it this morning, actually. I don't think I've seen before. Fuel sales for gas and diesel at a $342 entry for the, and maybe it's been there and I just haven't noticed it, but I'm just, and I don't have a concern. I just look at each of these line items in this report as fairly significant, and I'm just wondering.
I believe that may be the sales that we make for ground service equipment to airlines. That's why it's such a small number, too. We provide them with fuel, gas and diesel. That's why it's a revenue.
So we actually have gas storage capability, or for out of your own supply?
No, we have it. We have a truck that has gas and diesel.
Okay,
And rather than have to take the ground equipment off site,
I understand.
they get it
Thank
from
you.
us.
Big revenue producer.
Well, I know, and you look at the big numbers. That's why I sort of it struck me as
We're just
curious now.
We're trying to get things aligned to where they need to be. So.
Yeah, thank you.
Anything else on the quarterly? The budget process?
Would you, with the concurrence of my fellow commissioners, would you convey our appreciation to Jamie and to Deb for their efforts in bringing these past due items up current?
I have to tell you, I authorized a little bit of overtime, and just one of the checks was over $140,000, so I think it was well worth the overtime. I will. On the budget process, we're underway. The staff has prepared their internal worksheets. We'll be reviewing that, and I hope to have at the next meeting a draft of our budget, and if not, certainly by the following meeting. We have a meeting at the end of November with the town to go over it internally, and then I believe it's sometime, the schedule is in your packet. I think it's January, it goes January 24th, or 21st, rather. The Board of Selectmen is going to review the enterprise fund budgets. So we'll have at least 2 back and forths with the commission on the budget itself. And as I mentioned to Dan this morning, we will be putting in the PFCs, but I don't want to view that as our savior. I want to try to make sure that we're continuing to progress ahead and keep the PSCs primarily just to reduce down the debt service. So that's the goal of this upcoming budget. But there are a few things that we're going to need. Just have to figure out how we're going to do it. So.
In that context, in our discussion this morning, first of all, we agreed that we probably should have an article ready to bring the PFC into the budget, which we can then either withdraw or reduce the amount if we see fit, but just so it's there in case we need it. And secondly, we agreed that we would engage the town finance director in another discussion about the revolving fund and whether there isn't a way to utilize it so that we don't end up with a hole in our pocket because not all the revenues of it come into the airport.
And you may...
Because we haven't reached the cap on fuel sales.
Yeah, you will see some of that impact on the very bottom section of that quarterly report, where it has the line item for fuel revolver fund balance that's unavailable for retained earnings. They have to back that out, so that plays into that whole calculation. So I will set that meeting up with the finance director, and we begin drafting the warrant article for application of PFCs if need be.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments?
I don't know if it got in as a handout, but the capital requests, you may remember there were 2 concerns there. One was the amount for the design of the ground service equipment storage facility. That was significantly reduced, and I forget the exact number, but it came down dramatically because it is basically a shed that we're looking for. And the other was the money that we put aside there for the flat top building relocation. We're still researching and trying to reconcile the GA building. We don't have the final rec in, but we want to see what is still in there, if anything. So if we don't need it, we won't use that, but it's kind of like a placeholder right now, the $55,000 for the flat top relocation.
Any questions?
Where are you thinking of moving the flat top building? If you haven't got it, I'm sorry.
Well, we actually have someone who has expressed an interest in it.
Okay. I knew that we
And
had.
wherever they would like. If they
In which
want.
case, it might not cost us anything.
Okay,
That's-
that's good.
Keep our fingers
But
crossed.
that's after we use it, after the tower gets redone and, right?
Yes, that's correct.
That's
yes.
correct.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Master plan.
Master plan updates, I have received comments on Chapter 7. Thank you, everyone. Went through those last week with Jacobs, so they're in the process of drafting the final version of Chapter 7. I believe that's due out late this week. We will then have a subcommittee meeting to prepare for the next advisory committee meeting to go over the suggested alternatives and hope to start prioritizing those. You'll see in your, I believe it's a handout, the latest matrix is in there. It's on the large paper here. Don't panic, please. You'll see in the first 0 to 5 years, The first 2 years, there's significant dollar involved. The next step here will be to put it basically through the financial sieve and, see what shakes out. There's no way we're going to be doing that much. We can't afford it. So the next step is we're going to look at the financial feasibility part of the master plan, identify exactly what we want them to focus on so that we're not wasting our time looking at things that we're not going to do. On average, our capital program is in the neighborhood of $2 to $3 million a year tops. So again, this is a matrix that just lists the priorities, and you can see the weights and things, and it gives us a guideline. It may say 0 to 5 years, but it might take us 10 to 15 to get it done. So we just check these boxes off as we go, but again, we're going to be looking for advice from the advisory committee to help prioritize some of these as well. And that'll be, again, after we're going along as we do, the financial filter, if you will.
Are there questions?
No, I was just wondering, I know the last time this was a conversation about the advisory board, whatever, not being able to get some of the questions done. Have they had a previous or since meeting since then, and were they able to get more questions answered?
No, that's what the next
what the
meeting's
next
going to
one's
be.
gonna be?
It's going to show them the various alternatives and why they were selected and what criteria is used, and then get their input if there are things that need to be readjusted or whatever.
Okay. And that will be where they're able to get some answers.
Yes.
Thank you.
Who developed the priority score?
That was done by Jacobs.
Do you concur with that, or do you have any comment about any of those?
For the most part, I do. As I say, we don't have the financial in here. So it was done, as kind of required with the standards issues. They're the highest priority, and it's actually established through FAA in terms of funding their priority system. They have
really? Okay. So
they have a very
that's what this
detailed
was.
advisory circular that establishes the priority funding items.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe it's safety, capacity, and I forget the other third that are top ones, but it's a weighted matrix that they have in an advisory circular that you can plug a project in and tell where it's going to shake out.
Thank you.
Seriously, is an upgrade of our voice telephone system eligible for FAA reimbursement?
Quite possibly, depending upon what system it may be part of. We need to have emergency notification systems. We have to have ways to communicate.
Okay, that makes sense.
I don't think I'm still on that emergency. I don't think.
On the
anybody-
alert?
On the alert.
We'll run a test and I'll make sure that you're on that,
Okay, thank you.
because I know we went over it with them.
Right, but it did not happen on the emergency drill, and then it was supposed to,
Right.
somebody was
And I
supposed to
didn't get one
contact
on
me
the
next
emergency
day.
drill actually either, because when I wasn't here.
We will probably, what I'll try to do is coordinate what's the word I'm looking for? Just drew a blank. A test, and we'll send out a notification via email. Then we'll do the test and ask you to respond to see if you got it or not. So
Yeah, because you're supposed to, the last one I got was, I guess, with the Cape Air incident.
you got the alert 2, and you're supposed to be getting the alert 3s as well,
Yeah,
definitely. So.
yeah. And then you have to respond. They ask you to respond.
Yeah.
Well, it did happen that day, Mr. Gasparo misplanned, sir, and I was standing right beside them, and I got nothing. I had my phone, my cell phone, and I got nothing on the home phone
Okay.
when I got home.
We will look into that.
All right. Any other questions on the matrix? So a big bite to chew
I
there.
was going to say a lot to look at.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, when you do look at it,
Yeah, I know.
there's a lot on that platter. All right. Manager's report.
On the project side of the house, the GA building, the irrigation is in. The maintenance department has done a tremendous job of preparing it and getting it ready, as well as putting in some drainage around the perimeter of the building. And the sod should be in shortly. We're also meeting next week, or this week, I think, with, this week, with Nantucket Architecture Group to go over some of their items and also try to move the final pay request along, because we haven't yet received anything from FA&A on their final request, so we want to get that moving. The control tower project, there is a meeting tomorrow on the 70% design review, and the pre-qualifications are due the end of this week. We've received 2 so far. I'm really starting to get a little concerned on the control tower in terms of the estimates that are coming in. They're in the $3 million plus, and we only have $2 million plus left over. So we're going to see how this shakes out tomorrow. I want to verify whether or not the estimate includes all of the electronics and things that the FAA has a separate source of funding for. But I'm just not getting a real warm and fuzzy, comfortable feeling yet that we are going to have enough funding. So I'll get back to you after tomorrow's meeting.
What was the other funds used for? If we had started out plenty, what have they been used for? Design?
Previously, there were quite a few dollars spent on studies for locating the tower and design services as well. But the FAA has indicated that they have another source of funding for some of the work. So I want to see what this estimate includes, whether it's all together or if it includes the electronics package or not.
When will this take place, and do we get a choice as to when it takes place?
The challenge with this one, Commissioner, is that the funding source is through an earmark and an other transaction agreement that expires if we don't use the money by, I believe it's the fall of 15. So we're kind of up against the clock in terms of getting it done, or we lose the $4 million that we had. So to answer that question, we're kind of in a box there to do that. It's primarily an FAA-driven project, but it had to go through our procurement process. So we're kind of the ones that are procuring services and coordinating it, but it is an FAA-run project. I mean, tomorrow there'll be 10 or 14 people here, half of them with FAA. So I don't know if that answered your question or not, but that's what's driving the time frame and whether or not we can do this. It was initially supposed to be a brand-new tower, and it went round and round, and then up to, it wasn't last summer, it was 2 years ago maybe, when FAA looked at a new tower here and told us the cost was going to be $21 million.
That wasn't even 2 years ago. They were, we
Last
dealt with a
summer?
site issue almost exactly 2 years ago. And then there was subsequent to that, sometime within the last 18 months, I want to say, where they came and said
That it would be $21 million, and we just informed them that we don't have that money. This is what we have, and so we're trying to work this project into the money that we have. So I don't know if that answered your question or not, Tony.
More or less. Thank you.
On the security project, we held a pre-construction meeting last week.
I'm sorry, Tom, excuse me, to go back to the control tower for a moment. Is the decision to be made tomorrow on who, if one of these proposals is satisfactory, will a decision be made? On
When you say one of the proposals, pre-qualifications?
Pre-qualification.
No, they're due in Friday,
Okay.
and then there'll be a selection process if, in fact, we receive enough of them. So,
If in fact we
If-
receive enough of
if
them?
I think we have to receive 3. If not, we have to go back out again. So we have 2. We're trying to get the word out as much as possible. We spent some money to advertise it too, so. But it's a unique project in itself. So we'll see what happens there.
Get Victor to put in a bid.
There must be people that do that as a living. I don't know who does that kind of work.
There are folks, I guess, not specifically, but it's a basic construction project. The uniqueness is that it's a control tower. So,
And there are asbestos issues.
which are
In the
minimal.
tower
in this,
now? In
so,
the tower now.
Yeah.
How about the group that did the Hyannis tower? Did they put a bid in, or were they approached, or do you know?
I
who-
don't know if they were the ones that just put the pre-quals in or not. I'll have to look at that.
I don't know who did the tower.
I mean, because that seemed to go
I
so
did.
quickly, but they didn't have the location issue that we have.
Well, and it's
That's-
also a
it's
contract tower.
There's also,
It's a contract tower. It's not an FAA
there's
project.
also,
Not everybody,
It
okay.
was it was a modular, so it was built off-site and then, you know,
Yeah, trucked in and plopped together.
whole different animal.
Right.
and it still costs, what, $7 or $8 million?
Okay. Anything else on the tower?
No.
On the security project, as I said, we had our pre-construction meeting last week. Cobo is a contractor. They've done a lot of work for us at the airport. Number of different elements, from security fencing to a light on the terminal building, replacement of some doors, and some other access control items. We agreed that there would be probably two different schedules for this project because there's another element of the work that includes interactive employee training, which the way the system usually works is they will come out and do video of your airport. They write a script, and it takes about 4 to 6 months to do that. So we said we would agree to a longer schedule for that part of the work, and they will have their schedule to us in the next 10 days. On our capital improvement plan, we have a meeting. It's a conference call scheduled with the FAA on October 23rd, and this Friday we're going to have a pre-meeting with Jacobs to go over our CIP, our 5-year capital improvement plan with FAA. Again, the focus on that is primarily going to be ramp rehabilitation. That's where we're going to use most of our grant money. I talked about the tower.
And who are you meeting with FAA? Is that, I mean, what group is that?
Typically, it's the engineering, it's Cliff Fasarka, and it'll be the
Okay.
state. Lisa Lesbrance, usually too, from planning, and I forget the lady's name from the state.
There's also another woman from the FAA.
Mary sometimes
No.
is there, but,
No, we can't think of her name right now. But she's, what?
oh, Priscilla?
No.
I don't know. Well, I'll find out who's going to be on the call, though. On the operations side, I'm continuing to work with Don Jacobs on job descriptions. He sent me updated job descriptions for all the titles that I sent him. So I'll be reviewing those in the formats as well as a survey for the employees to make sure we hone in on that.
Would you like the Personnel Committee to take a look at those?
Sure. I want to look at them quickly because there's some just glaring things that, you know, I want to clean up, and then we'll get them
And
to
when
you.
it's appropriate, maybe you could send them to the committee and we can have a quick meeting just to.
Okay.
On that same subject, did you get the final report for the classified and compensation study?
For the
Uh,
town?
compensation? No, for the employees. Did you get that from John Jacobs? Oh, you're talking Jacobs Engineering?
No,
No,
Don
Don
Jacobs,
Jacobs.
he's working to do that. Step one is to make sure we align all the job descriptions.
'Cause, I got something sent by email that I could forward to you, the whole study that they did, I believe.
For the
But I haven't
town.
read it
For the town.
Yeah.
But not for, not the
for
one.
town, but I didn't know if that included
Yeah,
the
we had-
report or not.
No, well, it included the airport manager originally.
If you could send me that, I don't know if
Okay,
I
I'll
received
send
the
you
full
that, too.
thing, though.
Yeah.
And there were some concerns with that in terms of the job descriptions and their formatting. We want to make sure we're standardized with the town in terms of the formatted job descriptions.
I haven't been able to look at it, but I will, and I'll forward that to you. Does anybody else want that information?
Yeah,
or not?
please.
Okay.
On the McGrath/Santos hangars, I've had discussions with both individuals, and the valley between, you may recall that these are two hangars that are joined by one common wall, and there's a concern with leaking in the roof. They're going to do the valley between the two very shortly. And because of the weather, they're not going to do the entire roof on the McGrath until the spring. The roofer said it's better to wait for the material to be able to adhere. And Mr. Santos will be required to do his sidewall that needs work. The agreements are legal, and the language is being developed right now, but I've had discussions with both of them, and they're working together. It's, again, a unique situation where you got two hangars that are, one's dependent on the other, and we have to have an agreement similar to each, so we're working through that. We have a request, or I received a request from Catherine Stover for an acre of land for a crematorium and I guess a morgue or funeral home. And I just want to make the commissioners aware the piece of land that she has requested is, all right, what do I do with this? In the Bunker Road area, it's either, I believe it's this lot right here. Now, to get you situated, this is the SRE and NERDA building. This is where the FUD site is, over here, the MRS site. So we're around the corner here. Now, there are some challenges with that location in that some documents indicate that as aeronautical use. Just a heads up, too, the Board of Selectmen were supposed to discuss this topic last week and have postponed it until tomorrow night. So they're going to be discussing the overall issue. If, in fact, the commission were interested in this, I don't know that that would be the best location, but with regard to our overall land use plan, I'm looking at putting together eventually an RFP for some property that we have on Sun Island Road. We're going to look to get an appraisal and a survey done. There's 2, possibly 3 parcels on Sun Island Road that we would RFP for any type of service. And this would probably have to be RFP'd anyway if, in fact, there was an interest from the commission. So I just wanted to make you aware of it. We'll see what the Board of Selectmen says tomorrow night and what's going to happen. Then we can proceed from there. But I just wanted to make everybody aware of the request.
And did you mention the other sites too on Sun Island Road or not?
I just simply said we're going to be looking into it and what the issues may be.
Mm-hmm.
I will probably see her tomorrow night at the meeting, and I'll let her know that there may be other alternatives.
I just didn't know if she picked that spot for a particular reason, traffic, parking, and all of those other
I think it was just 1 acre, and some of her other requirements, though, were, I believe, water and sewer, and we don't have that out there. But again, it's going to have to go through an RFP process, fair market value, and I did make her aware of some of that. So,
Thank you.
What's her time frame on that?
I don't know that she has one.
Okay.
We don't have anything now on the island. So.
At least there'd be neighbors who didn't complain about noise.
Why is that?
Sorry, I couldn't resist.
Just a reminder that we will be scheduling a training session for commissioners on, it's either going to be NIMS, National Incident Management System, and or, Dave, what's the word I'm looking for? Command, Incident Command, ICS, Incident Command System or structure. It's a requirement, actually, that folks in your position have certain levels, and we're either going to work with Dave Franzuta, the emergency management person for the town, or our instructor, Norm, that comes in and does the fire training. As an attachment also, you have the annual report for the town, for the annual town meeting. Dan has made some minor corrections. I have that. If you have any comments, please get them back to me as soon as you can. I will get that down to downtown. We did have our full-scale exercise, and Commissioner Topham and Planzer were there, and I greatly appreciate your attendance. And I'm sorry, Commissioner Gasparo as well. We learned a lot. There were some, things that may have not been done exactly properly, but we did learn from that. We have a number of responses back for the after-action report. We had the after-action meeting last week. They will be developing the after-action report, and then we will work to develop a plan to address all of the issues or items that are mentioned in the after-action report. And I think that's the critical piece, is following up on it. If we do nothing about it, we're increasing our liability. So we're going to work to start checking those things off and improving the way we do things. One other note, we had an operations officer and a maintenance employee receive their advanced ARF training. They were out in Pittsburgh 2 weeks ago, so everybody is now fully trained, advanced ARF training, so that's a good thing. We're trying to schedule this meeting with the FAA compliance officer, Tom Vick, and we're
Why don't we talk about that when we get to the commissioner's comments?
Okay. On the statistics, it's very interesting. The operations August over August are down 1.6%, but year-to-date, they're essentially flat. They're up by 55, which is, when you're talking 34,000, 55 is a very small percentage.
Statistically insignificant.
And the employments are very similar, only even a little crazier in terms of being so close. They're only off by 11 when you're talking 67,000 passengers. So essentially the employments are flat year to date. In August they're down just slightly. Jet A for August was up 6%, and year to date is up 2.3%. I will tell you, I do have the September numbers. I looked at those. They're down slightly, but it'll still be up year to date. And so far, we're seeing some good traffic. Yesterday was very busy. Today, we actually
How was the weekend?
very busy. According to staff, they were busy straight through, Friday through Monday. And even today, as I said, we had quite a bit of traffic. So
I wonder if September wasn't affected by the fact that Labor Day was the first. So that in fact, obviously benefited August, but may have detracted from September because, people were already here.
Right.
And many of them even had left by the first.
well,
So-
it may have pushed back some of these weddings because we're still seeing some
Right.
wedding traffic too. So the avgas is down, but again, they're not significant numbers there. Freight was down 4.6. Noise was up very high, and you have NOAA's explanations attached. Again, it looks like a very high percentage, but if you read the details, you'll see there's a number of folks that are repeat, and we're doing our best to try to work with the airlines. Some of the airlines just don't seem to want to. They're using the exemption. I'll leave it at that. That's my report.
Do you know if the person who was abusive this month is the same one who was abusive last month? Is it the same?
I believe it is, yes.
Do you do anything about contacting the police when you get that type of thing? I don't know how abusive is abusive.
It's foul language, irate, and I give him no credit. He has a lot of patience, and he very politely explains to them, we're not going to take your call into consideration until you act responsibly.
Does the person slam the phone down, or does the person get more reasonable?
No, sometimes they may not be in the. They may have other factors influencing their decisions.
Noted.
Do they give their name when they're this particular?
Sometimes, and sometimes
But
you just
yeah.
know who it is too. So.
Have there been other complaints about the Maya Comet corridor, if you will? He says 10 were from one resident.
One individual there.
Yeah.
They're the only ones I know of. I don't know of any.
Because
others.
I got a complaint from somebody informally, a different person than the ones who have talked to us in the past.
Well, and I would just encourage them, please call NOAA, fill out the form, do whatever, so that we can get these on record,
right.
because we don't know if it's a true issue, if it's one individual or if
Well,
it's affecting others.
it's interesting because the person who talked to me lives on Mayacomet Pond at the south end of the corridor, whereas Mr. Dunn and whoever the other person was, now I can't remember. Not Johnson. No, there was somebody else. Live at the north end of that corridor. So it's,
It is interesting.
yeah.
And that's why I say the more information we get, the more we can
Right.
look into exactly what it is. So.
I'll tell him to do that and not be abusive. Are there any questions on the statistics or the noise complaints? On the commissioners' comments, are there any from?
Well, I'm glad to hear that we are going to have some education or training for according to Norm, he felt it was there. I thought the emergency drill was very interesting, and I'm glad that I did participate or see it. And I had a question on one of our other things, we were talking about the redesign of the airport website by the Worcester Polytech. Has that started or not?
It has not started. I believe they come on site this month, though.
Yeah, it said
I
October.
say the work hasn't started, but the coordination effort of the students has begun already. And we've identified a location. We have their names. We're getting them all squared away. So that work should begin, I believe, towards the middle or.
Who's overseeing it?
Noah.
Noah,
is overseeing it for us.
Is Skylar Cool involved in it at
Yes.
all? Yeah, okay. Anything else, Mr. Buscarin? Ms. Planzer, you have any comments?
No?
Mr. Gasparo? There were a couple of things. We talked at one point, we talked tonight about having a personnel subcommittee meeting. We talked at one point before Mr. Buscarin joined the fold of having an environmental committee meeting to look at the noise issues again.
I've asked Noah 2 weeks ago that whenever he was ready.
Okay.
He was on family leave. He's now back
Okay.
today.
All right. And the third thing was, we thought we should have a long-range planning committee, subcommittee meeting prior to the public forum on the
Master plan.
master plan. So I just make a note of those. And we do need to decide what we're going to do, how we're going to schedule Mr. Vick from the FAA, which has been an issue now for 3 months. And I just as soon get us behind us. But he most recently was scheduled for the meeting on the 28th of October, and now can't come because he has to be somewhere else, and asked if he could come in November, the first meeting in November. I am not going to be present. I'll be on the phone, but I will not be present for that meeting. And I thought it better that I be present for that session. I think we should probably schedule a special session. It is 60 to 90 minutes, and that's a lot to add on to a regular meeting. So, I mean, basically, the week of the 9th, 10th of November is out for me. Other than that, I'm pretty good. The evening of the 20th would not be good either. But I would propose that if everybody's agreeable, that we look maybe at the first week in October.
October, November?
November, I mean. Maybe on Tuesday's Election Day.
I'm sorry,
I'm
Dan.
gone for a good part of that week.
You're
Not
gone?
that-
You're gone,
Did you
okay.
say in lieu of the 13th meeting?
Well, I was thinking of that, too. If we had anything that needed to come up, we could add it to the agenda if it was not going to be a full-blown meeting. Otherwise, it would have to be the week of the 17th, if you all are around and available. I don't think we should do it Thanksgiving week. So you're away the week, Election Day week?
Yes. absolutely gone.
What about the week of the 27th of October?
That's fine.
I'm not around Monday, Tuesday. That's a tough week. I can do anything in November.
Okay. Well, then I guess it looks like we're talking about the week of the 17th of November.
What's the subject with the FAA president?
Compliance, primarily grant assurance compliance.
Oh, wait a minute, the meeting that week is the 13th, isn't it? No.
Yeah.
Yeah, because of Veterans Day on the 11th. I might be back, but probably not.
And
Oh,
I
yeah.
am not here on the Wednesday, the 19th, if that's the date.
Okay, so let's shoot for the 18th. Shall we try that, Janine, please?
And the reason this gentleman has not been able to come is because he's had conflicts? Or
The most
we had
recently,
conflicts?
well, we wanted Mr. Buscarin to be here, and then we
Okay.
started running into various conflicts that he had. And this most recent one, we'd agreed on the date, but he got preempted.
And it's, again, it's a 60 to 90 minutes
Right.
minimum, so we're trying to
And I
work it
think
into
that's
it.
too much to add on to our meetings.
Right. So let's shoot for the 17th or 18th. Give him two options.
Well, didn't Jeanette just say she's not going to be here?
She's
On
not going to
the
be here.
Wednesday, the 19th, is that what it is?
Yeah. All right. Is there any public comment at this time? Hearing none. I would entertain a motion to go into executive session under General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21, to review executive session minutes as listed on the agenda and not to return to open meeting. Is there such a motion?
So moved.
Second?
How do you vote? Ms. Topham?
Aye.
Mr. Buscarin? Ms. Planzer?
Aye.
Mr. Gasparo?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. All right, I'm going to take a quick break, and you have some things we have to sign, right?
Yes.
Janine? I'll be right back. Or I can, I better go first.
Dan, and I'll send it, I'll I haven't had a chance to look at it.
Goes to